Hello everyone, this is Michael Mirdad and we're welcoming you to our next presentation of our Friday Night Spiritual Insights with Michael Mirdad. We appreciate you joining us. So, to get started with the topic for today, it's going to be about your first priority. What is your first priority? And what really is the best first priority? Obviously, your relationship with God. And when it comes to priorities, let me clarify something. Take a moment to sort of check in and ask yourself this. What is it you do most consistently? Okay, obvious things like you sleep every day, you use the washroom every day, you have dinner every day, simple things like that. We're not going to really go that direction besides the absolute obvious necessity, you sleep and so on. Besides that, the doings. What do you do most frequently? You watch TV every day, perhaps. You read the newspaper every day, perhaps, God forbid, but you might. So what do you do regularly? Do you call your children every day? Do you call your mom every day? Do you go to some like a hobby related thing? Do you go out to some event every day, at home or outside, things like that, things that you're doing? Read a book every day. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is take a little inventory about what you do every day. And it doesn't have to be every day. It's what do you do most frequently? So besides the sleeping, eating, besides that, what do you do most frequently? Call my friends, watch TV, whatever that you do most frequently. And then ask yourself this. If you wrote down the 10 things you most frequently do, where's God in there? The first, the last? Is it not even on the chart? You might want to ask yourself, very, very powerful question. You might want to ask yourself, where is God in there? Again, besides sleeping, things like that, absolute things that just obviously happen every day. Besides that, when it comes to hobbies and doings of the life, the day-to-day life, I would even throw in eating for myself, just because I want to ask, do I pray as often as I eat? Let's say you eat 3 times a day. Do you also pray 3 times a day? I'm not wanting you to feel bad. I'm not trying to guilt you. I'm just asking. Do you pray 3 times a day? Meditate 3 times a day? It doesn't have to be 5 hours of meditation or prayer. It's just, do you even for half a minute to a minute? Because then it still is done. So where are you at with that? Take time to consider, and it's such a powerful question, such a powerful exercise. Where is God in there? On anything that you do. You go for a leisurely drive. How often are you intimate, making love with yourself or someone else for that matter? Do you garden? Whatever kinds of things. Oh, I garden every day. Great. So that might be towards the top. But do you also take time with Spirit every day? So I would assume that most of us are going to say, I definitely pray semi-regularly, pray or meditate, semi-regularly. So maybe it's got that part of it. Maybe that part's got the, maybe that's got the high ranking for some, like I meditate and I pray, regularly, but semi-regularly. So it's maybe on your top 10 chart. But then just find out what rates above it. What do you do more often than connect with God? Now I could really push the envelope and say, how often do you worry? But that's too challenging because most people worry 1,000 times a day. So we don't want to make us feel too bad by being that honest, unless you really want to look at that. But no, really, let's stick to the doings of the day. Gardening, I garden every other day. Great. Do you, let's pretend that's number 5 on your list. What's above gardening? Well, I watch TV every day. Okay, fair enough. So let's say that's number 3 on your list. Number 1, I call my kids every day. Okay, great. Every day for some of these. How many times a day? Well, some of them twice a day, some of them once a day. Okay, fine. So one rated above another. But how often do you pray and meditate? I recommend every morning and every evening at least a half a minute to a minute of some kind of connection. What'll happen? Just that little exercise, and then try to connect during the day sometime, but that one little exercise, you'll be able to say to yourself, to anyone else who asks or cares, even to God itself, you'll be able to say, oh my God, my number 1 priority is God. That's amazing. It doesn't mean you put more hours, more minutes or hours into it per day, per week. Just how often do you do it? And if you're lucky, 3 times a day, morning, evening, and sometime in between, whew, man, that's just amazing. And you should really give yourself credit. There's a part in the book of Revelation that is, it's an inventory. It's about the 7 churches. And John, the beloved, who's having the vision of what we know of as Revelation, the book of Revelation, John's having a moment where he's seeing this what I'm calling an inventory. There are 7 churches, and each of them are told their gifts and challenges. What that is John was being initiated into Christ consciousness, and he was being told this chakra, say root chakra, heart chakra, whatever, each of those 7 seals, and later in the book, and early in the book, the 7 churches, they're about the 7 centers of the body, the being. And each of those is being evaluated as a, how are you doing? So heart chakra, it could be very loving, but a little bit protected. That would be like what John was hearing. He was told the pros and cons of each center, but one of the centers in particular, it was like, here are the pros, here are the gifts in that center, but the one it was mentioned is you forgot your first love. And that is God. That's priority. So if it were me, and what I recommend to you, but if it were me, if I were you, and I find that I might get around to praying or meditating a couple times a week, which is better than nothing by all means, a couple times a week. I watch TV every day. I call my kids every day. I talk to my mother every day. Whatever else, garden, whatever else. And I find that there are 9 other things that I do every day, and God comes every few days. Not a problem. What I'm asking you to do is just see it. Start with just, whoa, wow, that's kind of insightful. Then you ask yourself, are you happy with that? You might say, totally. It's all it's all I got time for, and brush it off and fine, be with it. But you might say also, no, now that I see it, I would like to correct it. And sit with that and say, I see this. I refuse to forget my first love. I forgive also that I refuse to forget my first love, but I also refuse to let that continue. So I forgive myself. And I'm joyously welcoming a new relationship with God, more consistent. I get to connect with God more often. You might read romance novels every day, but nothing spiritually inspiring. Why would you want that? Oh, because these really, they make me happy, or they're interesting, they're intriguing. I get that's fine. But so is God. So just bring it in somehow, guys. Bring it into your life more often. Inspirational reading like Jesus Calling or A Course in Miracles or whatever feels right for you. There's also a book called God Calling. It's very beautiful, daily messages. And you can easily download an app or put on your computer things like quotes from, let's say, Edgar Casey, the quote of the day. Thought of the day, I think they usually call it, but quote of the day or thought of the day. You can go to Daily Word of Unity Church. You can go to Science of Mind, also known as the Centers for Living, and get their quotes every day. There's no reason, and you can download them in your app, there's no reason that any of us should be able to say, well, I just don't think of it and I don't have that available. Easily available, easily available. One thing I recommend for folks is if you have an inspirational book, whether it's Course in Miracles or whatever, when you're going to go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, first of all, when you make your bed or whatever, take your, if you're going to have inspired reading on your nightstand, put it on your pillow so that you have to see it and move it before you go to bed at night. So you go to bed and it's sitting on your pillow. Great. Then open it, read before you lay down. So that's one way to have a discipline. Of course, another, like I said, it's on your app. But then if you have it on your nightstand now, because you put it there after you read and you slept, you wake up in the morning, maybe if possible, reach over, pull it over to you. Now, you reach over and pull the Bible, that's a bit heady and a bit wordy. So you want something just sharp and clear. And you might even just have your own favorite prayer. Could be Lord's Prayer, whatever. But you pull over to yourself, a couple sentences, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, put it back down, lay back down for a moment, push the snooze alarm or whatever you have, and just kind of absorb that energy. It's the way to start the day. You absorb that. Same when you're going to sleep. You read something and you go to sleep in that energy. I call it waking up on the right side of your mind, okay, in the morning. And then going to bed on the right side of your head, So it's a beautiful way not only to feed your soul, to start and end the day in the right frequency, but also it turns this into a priority. I start and end my day. It's like saying God is the Alpha and Omega, but instead of it being philosophical, God is literally my Alpha and Omega. I literally start and end my day with God. If more people would do that, well, wow, what a different world we'd have, first of all. But also, begin and end every lifetime with God. Every major event in your life, try to anchor that in. Anchor that in. Whatever you're doing in life. You could anchor spirit in when you have meals and use a little blessing, a little prayer. I mean, there are things you can do. You could make it a ritual of some kind. You can hang a little something in your shower that reminds you while you're showering, because you're standing there, you're washing your hair, rinsing or whatever. While you're doing that, say something. Say, a moment of prayer. God, be with me today. Guide me in all that I think, say, and do. Guide me in all that you would have me think, say, and do. Show me how you want me to be, how you want me to live, how you want me to think, etc. It's very easy, very doable, and what a difference it makes in our lives. It's like you suddenly were plugged in to a mystical experience. You were suddenly plugged into like a spiritual family, but it's your own, like an inner family. It will make a huge difference. So again, going back over what I've shared today, stop and take an inventory, maybe write down, in order preferably, the things you do most frequently, barring sleep, that's an obvious one. But, there's the necessities, You might say go to work every day, but that's fine, if you want to add that or not. I'm talking more about how you spend your day, what you do, not the things you kind of have to, like you're steady, sleeping every night. If you want to include it, fine. But I'm looking more for, and what I'm asking you to look for is more like your choices of things, not the things you tend to have to do, but what we call have to, but more like the things you choose to do. So I choose to call this person, I choose to watch TV, those kinds of things, because you don't want to create a competition between God and whatever. You have to sleep every day, but can you also pray every day? And you don't have to call someone, you don't have to watch shows. Those are choices you're making. So of all your choices, are you choosing God anywhere in there at all? Now again, I'm closing with this. If God doesn't rank in the 10 at all, or ranks at 8 or 9 or whatever, the point of this is not to guilt yourself. It's to let it become like an awaken, like an aha. Then what are you going to do with it after it's an aha? What's the next step? what seems obvious for the next step. What am I going to do about it? Well, I like where it is, so be it. Then just kind of wrap your mind around it, accept it, and let it be. Or it's going to be, this is, no. God, seventh place to anything, gardening, going on a date, or whatever you do. Which ones, and when you're done, if you say, well, there's 3 still above the God piece, just remember to ask yourself, does it really make sense that calling my mother I do more often than calling God? Really? Don't guilt yourself, but just check in and go, wow, that's strange. Because anything that would rate above God, in the old school terminology, would be called a false idol, a false god, because it has priority over God. Now, God's not trying to guilt you and trip you out about that. It is what it is. But to ask ourselves, why would I even consider that? If I self-pleasure more often than connecting with God. Really? Okay. Wow, that's a trip. I drink more often, because that's not a mandatory sleeping thing. I drink 3 times a day. I talk to God once every other day. Okay, fine. False God, but why? Why would I even consider putting that first? Even exercise. I exercise every day. Great, you exercise every day. But not connecting with God more often? How about saying a little prayer before you even exercise? That would be okay. Ties that in there and keeps God up, higher up in your priority list. So please take time. What are your highest priorities? And where does God rank in that, so to speak? Learn to make God your first priority or your first love, your alpha, your omega. It'll make a huge difference in your life in every way, shape, and form. Okay? Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Hope you join us in our other programs, Sundays, 10 o'clock Arizona time, 5:30 like this every Friday. We also have other programs going on. You can check my website to find out what those are, and then join us if you feel called to do so. We thank you very much. If any of you decide to send donations or whatever, that's wonderful. It helps fund these things, these programs, but it's not mandatory. So follow your heart in that, but we thank you in advance if you choose to support. You can also send love and prayers, right? Peace, and support to us in our work. That works too. God bless you all. We'll see you. Bye-bye.